we go.
Cool.
And then we'll kick it off. Yeah, I think we're live now and all. Happy days. Give it a minute or so and let a couple of people join, and then we can kick it off. Your posters look great on the stream, Rob.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it.
Better than my fucking tiny little box room that I'm in.
This is a box room too, in fairness. Just spruced up a little
done
bit.
it well with the camera.
See, I've another room inside next to me, and I've fight posters and stuff like that in there, but I don't have the desk set up in there. I'm gonna have to move it in at some stage.
Yeah.
It'll look much better than my fucking bedroom.
Super. There's a couple of people in there now. I can introduce it. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for those of you who have joined in live, and for those who might be watching later. Delighted to be joined by Rob Palin, who you may remember from shows we have previously done together. Obviously, Fight Talk, the MMA Movement. We're back once again, and also Ryan Cahill, who looks after matchbooks, betting, or boxing and MMA content. We've done a couple of bits together now as well. So delighted to get the two boys on the stream. We're going to talk about UFC 295, which goes down this weekend in New York, I believe. Is it New York? I think it is.
Sure is.
We're going to talk about the Frank Warren Queensbury card in Manchester next week, which Ryan is going to. And then we're going to touch on Katie Taylor versus Chantel Cameron, that rematch, which goes down later this month, I believe. So we're going to touch on that as well. I'll kick it off from the top of UFC 295. Yuri Prochazka against Alex Pereira has been bumped to the main event following the falling apart of John Jones and Stipe Miocic. Rob, I think this is a weird fight. Like, I love it because I think it could be a bit mental just because they're two oddballs. Like, where do you stand on this fight? Do you like it? Do you hate it? How do you feel about it?
I do like it because, as you said, it could be complete insanity. Like, it should be complete insanity, really. The only thing I don't really like about it, and it's kind of, I think we've had this discussion a few times before, is that I love the matchup as a matchup, but I don't like it because I don't like Prochazka coming back to this stage and this type of fight, because that injury that he had was serious. By like all the reports that we've seen, that was a serious injury, and the fact that he's coming back to a championship camp 5 rounds against a guy who's like, you know, has a shit ton of power and is very, very dangerous. I don't know. To me, I would have liked Prochazka to come back and get like a, I mean, they don't do tune-up fights in the UFC really, but like to get some kind of tune-up fight and then get this fight. But we're here, so what can you do? And I do like the fight as a matchup. I think it's good.
Yeah, Ryan, where do you stand on it? Like, from a betting perspective, like, what do you make of it? Do you think the line's all right? What's your thoughts?
I think it's very hard to set a proper line for this because, like, that layoff for Yuri, who knows how that's going to affect him. I mean, the injury. I mean, if you're going to tell me that he's at 100% coming in here, I think the line should probably be switched around. Like, I mean, that last fight he had against Glover was an absolute war, and I mean, he showed so much heart there, showed that he could fight into the later rounds. I just don't think that Pereira can do that in terms of fighting into the later rounds. So, I mean, it's a really intriguing fight. It is a really intriguing fight. I can't pick a winner of it. In terms of the betting at the moment, I just think there's too many unknowns around the area, especially. But it's a cracker of a fight.
Yeah, I like it as well. I really do think it could be like batshit crazy. Like, Yuri's obviously a lunatic, and then honestly, I'm not particularly high on either guy. I think like I saw more than enough from Yuri in the fight against 42-year-old Glover that just doesn't really make me want to back him in a fight like this. I've seen enough from Pereira again that I don't really want to back him at like best price of 5 to 6. Quite happy to sit this one out as a neutral. Like, I think there's things with Yuri. I think it was the CB Dalloway fight, doesn't really check leg kicks against a kickboxer like Alex Pereira. Not great.
That was CB Dalloway as well.
Yeah, was it? Yeah. Like Pereira, I've seen him get hit a little bit too much as well. Like, Yuri hits like a truck, obviously, as well. Then you have like the weirdness of Yuri coming off the layoff. Pereira a little bit lucky to get the split decision against Jan last time. Like, I don't have a strong opinion on that one either way. It was a close fight, but there's a lot of weird stuff coming into this fight that makes me just happy to pass on it from a betting perspective and just hope for some mental shit to happen in it. Like, I think if either had any grappling upside whatsoever, that they would be the bet, but neither does. I think, like, I don't know if either of you saw the video going around on Twitter of Yuri's. He's been credited with one official takedown in the UFC. It was against Dominic Reyes, and he just kind of fell in on top of him, and then he fell over, and he got credited with a takedown. So, like, neither of them really have any grappling upside here, but yeah, at the prices, it's a pass for me. Ryan, I know you put on our sort of sheet earlier. You kind of like the overs in this one.
Yeah. I just think coming into it, I think Pereira is going to likely win the first couple of rounds. I think he's way more technical. He's just longer, and he's just a better striker overall. It's, as you said, there's not going to be any grappling here. But I do think there might be a tendency that both men might be relatively cagey to start. Especially Yuri. I mean, coming off the layoff, coming off the injury. I think Pereira might have his own self doubts about his cardio as well. So I think he might want to pace himself here. So I can see this going into the later rounds. So I took a flyer on the over 1.5. I think it's a decent price. I've seen there's a bit of money for it as well. But I can see that landing. I can see it being relatively tentative the first round and a half. And then as if the fight gets into the later rounds, I took a flyer on Yuri round 4 and Yuri round 5. I dutched the two of those. Nice. I think it's not out of the realms of possibility that if it does get to those rounds, I think you might see Pereira fall off a cliff. Now this is a big if, because Yuri has to be at 100%. But yeah, I just can't play it. I just can't really stay big in this one. But I do kind of like the over angle.
Yeah, the one thing that's really pushing me towards Pereira actually is that injury, and like it's a real intangible because we don't know what he's going to look like. But just the fact that it's been a year, they talked about it as being the worst shoulder injury they've ever seen in the UFC, and maybe that was Dana White being a bit hyperbolic. You never know. You know what he's like. But from what we know, it was terrible. So like his camp, coming into a 5-round camp, his camp has probably been like 70-80% rehab and just trying to get back to a point where he can actually compete physically and not actually work on his skills. And like, speaking of his skills, he's going up against a guy who is extremely technical, and he fights with his hands down, which could be a problem. He's been caught by Glover. Glover's a decent boxer, but he's nowhere near what Pereira is. That's my problem. Like, I do agree with you. I think if it went later rounds, I think I would actually fancy Yuri in this, because I was quite impressed what he did late on against Glover, even though Glover was winning that fight. But I just don't know if it gets there, because I don't know. I just see Pereira cashing them early. One other thing as well, just to point out, I was looking at Prohaska's record, and obviously we knew that it was like a bit odd because he has tons of fights. But if you actually look at the guys who he's fought and beat, most of them are like ended their career. Like, for example, you're talking about CB Dollaway. He has wins over Mohamed Lawal really late in his career. And then even his UFC career, Glover Teixeira win, was he 43 at the time? 44?
42.
42. So Dominic Reyes, and that's post John Jones and post the bad losses he's had. Volkan Ozdemir, never great in my opinion, and also end of his career. He had Fabio Maldonado a couple of fights before he got into the... So like, I don't know, even though he has a much better record in terms of numbers than I'm blanking as Pereira, I almost feel like Pereira's record's better just because he has that Adesanya win. That one win I feel is better than anything that Yuri has done. And the Yan win as well. Yan is still a viable contender. And Strickland, and which has even got better over time, really. So that's what's pushing me towards Pereira.
I do kind of have a few question marks on how Pereira's power will translate up at light heavyweight, and how size translates as well, because he was a bit of a size bully at middleweight.
That's fair.
Like that, it's not enough of a sample size against Yan just one fight. Like, but I thought Yan held his own fairly well there. He didn't look undersized. He definitely didn't really feel the power of Pereira. So I just wonder if it will translate up a level. I suppose we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout as well. Like Pereira has very much been a size bully at middleweight, and even at middleweight. Like I think that was that Bruno Silva fight where you just would have some question marks on him over both guys. Like there's a lot of weirdness in this fight. Like I say,
He has that
for
big man
me,
defense, doesn't he? Where he like kind of puts his
yeah,
head up in the air. Yeah.
yeah, like he's catchable. They're both hittable. Kind of just hoping for some mentalness in this fight as a neutral with no bet on it. I do like your shouts of the Erie Flyers late on. I think they're really good. I think they're like 18-1 and 30-1, was it? You put them in that earlier.
Yeah, Dutch them together.
Yeah, I quite like those. So for me, as a pick, I don't really know. Pereira, maybe. Pereira early, Erie late. It's a bit of a cop-out, but yeah, that's probably my pick. Rob?
I'll go Pereira for the reasons I said. Also, he has Glover in his corner, which might be, they fought, so could be an interesting one. But I'll go Pereira, but like at the odds that you're getting, like what was about evens, is it? Something like that?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd fancy putting like loads of money on that. Yeah, so maybe stick it into like I don't know, accumulator or something like that. I don't know.
Ryan?
Gun to head, I think I'd go Pereira as well. But I think if it gets past the second, third round, I think it's Erie's fight.
I think that's a big thing as well.
So lump on after like 1 or 2.
Yeah, look, it's definitely a good live betting angle, like.
Yeah.
Especially because you get a chance to look at how Erie, his shoulder, especially. I mean, he's not the most technical to begin with, but I mean, you'll be able to kind of find out if he's at or near 100% within the first round, anyway.
Let's hope we don't get a TJ Dillashaw situation. Remember that one? His shoulder kept popping out.
I was thinking about that as you were talking about the camp in rehab. I was like, Jesus Christ, I got stung badly with that one. Rough. My main event is the one we're going to talk about next. I think this is a lot of people's main event. It's Tom Aspinall against Sergey Pavlovich. I think we can both agree that this is a better fight than John Jones and Stipe Miocic. Yeah.
I like it.
I think John Jones and Stipe was about 4 years too late. So fun fight, but I think this one's way more fun, and the odds would suggest so. You have Tom Aspinall around 5-6 and Pavlovich around 21-20. I love this fight. I think it's so much fun. I think we're all pretty high here on Tom Aspinall. Ryan, I know we were sort of chatting off here. You're very high on him. Yeah,
I think he's the absolute goods, to be honest. I mean, that performance against Tybora, who's no mug at all, after the injury, that was he blew through him as if he was a regional scene fighter. The Volkov fight as well. I mean, he's so much variables to his game. I mean, he can grapple. He's a fucking brilliant boxer. And I think Pavlovich is a bit one-dimensional, and he's a bit reliant on his power. Now, being reliant on that power, it isn't a bad thing because he can really crack. But I just find it hard to see him landing the big shot on Aspinall, and I think Aspinall is better wherever this fight ends up.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's very much a world, like I said, with the odds were there, it's around pretty much a pick 'em. But I think there's a world where if this fight gets to the mat or something like that, Tom Aspinall looks 1-5 because I think he's just worlds better than them, especially on the ground. I think it's very competitive on the feet. Obviously Pavlovich has that equalizer with the power. I agree that he's a little bit one-dimensional. It's a pretty good trick to have all the same, but I think if Tom can evade a lot of that, then his kicking game is going to be better. I just think he's kind of better everywhere. I suppose the leveler a little bit, and I wanted to ask you both about this. Rob, I'll start with you. Where does the what is it, 10 days, if even, where does that come into it? Cardio is probably a bit less relevant at heavyweight. These two have had 14 UFC fights, and 13 of them have ended in round 1. So,
yeah, I was actually thinking about that, the cardio side of it, because I was reading a couple of things after Aspinall's fight against. It was the only fight I think he went to the second round. Was that Arlovsky? I think it was. Mm-hmm. And people were talking about how he was already tired at the end of the first, and he looked tired in the second. I rewatched and I wasn't really sure. It didn't really look like he was tired to me. I find with Aspinall, the way he fights, he very much moves not like a heavyweight, more like a middleweight or something. Very light on his feet. So that's naturally gonna reduce as the fight goes on. I think it was just that he wasn't as active. But I did watch Pavlovich's fight. He had one 5-round fight. He went to decision, and his cardio looked really good. Now the fight wasn't, insanely explosive. It was played at his own pace, which is,
Yep.
I don't think Aspinall would allow that because Aspinall is so good. But to be honest, I don't know. I think if it goes late, I think Pavlovich might be able to take it just because of what I see with his cardio and just the fact that Aspinall just hasn't gone 5 rounds, or he hasn't even gone 3 rounds. So I think cardio could play a big factor in this one, to be honest.
Interesting. I want to get your thoughts on this one, Ryan, as well. Like, I think Aspinall would be a good bit shorter if this was like not coming in. If this wasn't a 2-week fight, like I think Aspinall could be like 4-7 here, 4-6 or something like that. If this wasn't the way if this didn't come about the way it's happened. Like, Pavlovich has obviously been training. He'll have been training for a mix of Miocic and John Jones, I guess. But like, Tom Aspinall presents an entirely different challenge to both of those guys.
Yeah.
Like, how would you price it now if this was a full camp for both guys?
I'm not sure. I don't think it's. I'm not sure if it's fully factored into the market that Aspinall is only on 10, 11 days notice here. Well, maybe it is. Maybe I could be wrong. I think if it's it's kind of pointless asking me as well because I'm so pro Aspinall here. I think you should probably go 4-7, 5-4.
Yeah, I agree. I think with a full camp, that's kind of the way it would be. There's like, I think it's kind of fact. I think I would probably flip the odds given what we know, the way the fight has happened or the fight has come about, like with the Pavlovich being fully trained. I'm not sure how relevant the cardio is myself, just because these guys don't go deep. Like I said, they've had 14 fights in the UFC combined. 13 of them haven't gone past round 1. Like, so how relevant is cardio here? Like, from a betting perspective myself, I actually took some of the 1.92 that was going on Tom Aspinall on the Betfair Exchange today. I thought that's really good. There's plenty of it going as well. It's still up there. He's the best price by 1.83, 5-6 on the sports books. I took a small bit on the Aspinall sub price and sub round 1 as well, just because they'll both be dry sort of round 1. And I think like Aspinall, like anyone coming in on short notice, he's going to have to go for it early, I think. So I took a small bit of the round 1 sub props as well. You could probably take the KO props as well. But yeah, I'd be fairly pro Aspinall here. I think like Pavlovich's best path to victory is just
manhandling,
isn't it? Yeah.
No, we were talking today, Sean, and I brought up the Overeem fight.
Yeah.
I know I don't like to look too far back. I said this last time I was on, but like, Jesus, it's hard to look past that. I mean, he got dominated on the ground there. If Aspinall ends up on top at any stage here, it's over. Like,
it's a wash. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think so. And like that's probably like his biggest thing in avoiding Pavlovich's power is just going to be if he can avoid it on a takedown entry, then it's probably a wash, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, unless Pavlovich lands some weird bonk knee or something, like you're probably getting to the ground, and then like the sub props might miss because it's a ground and pound KO or something. But yeah, I think like if Aspinall gets it to the ground, sure, he looks minus 1,000 or something stupid. Like, it's black belt and white belt.
Like, I think I tweeted I'd have him favored over any heavyweight in the world. I just think his game is so well rounded for a heavyweight. Like, you rarely see a heavyweight that can do both. Like,
yeah, there's some amazing clips of him on Twitter, like entering in and out of range and in the pocket and stuff, and it's like it's at a speed that no heavyweight should be able to do.
One thing, would you have any concerns over the injury that he had? It was a knee injury, wasn't it? And like we've seen, he came back after that. That was the Tybura fight, so it was quite short. We didn't really see anything. But just particularly with his style at heavyweight, knees are kind of important. Yeah. So I wonder. We'll see. Like, it could be fine, but I just wonder if it's going to have to change his style or something, if there's any kind of issues there.
I think it'd be a worry for me if he was fighting someone who I thought was going to be a bit more kick heavy than Pavlovich.
Yeah.
True. Like if I was someone like an Alex Pereira, for example, at heavyweight fighting Tom Aspinall,
smashing him.
Like, I would be smashing that knee. Like, that oblique side kick that everyone hates, but is a total. I'd be smashing that. And maybe he will kick a bit more because of that. Pavlovich, I don't know, but
he never kicks though, doesn't he? Like, I wonder. I haven't looked at the stats, but I don't think he kicks ever.
He doesn't really, like, so. Like, I'm not sure how good his fight IQ is as well. Like, I don't like betting fighters with bad fight IQ, and there's a lot of them. I think Tom Aspinall's fight IQ is unbelievable. Like it's almost, you know, that Project Mbappe stuff with Tom Aspinall's dad. He was isn't he one of the first black belts ever in the UK? It's a bit like Project Mbappe with the son, and Tom is just like unbelievable. So yeah, it would be heavily pro Aspinall. He's by far the most complete of the two. Like if you miss, like I think you can even if Pavlovich does land that weird bonk, I think even in a rematch, like it doesn't change the prices too much. Like unless we see something from Aspinall that's unbelievably concerning, where he just falls off a cliff cardio-wise after round one, or something like that.
Like I think with Pavlovich as well, he kind of seems like he's great playing the hammer, but not the nail.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, we haven't seen whether Aspinall is the same or not. Like he hasn't been faced with those issues. But I just, like, if things start going against Pavlovich, as you said, I would question his fight IQ as well. Like if things start going bad early, I think it's over. Like.
Yeah. I don't know. I think like I said, there's not a lot of tape on either of these guys really. Like when you think about it compared to other guys, like we really don't know how good Aspinall is either. Whereas I know similarly we haven't seen the same amount of tape on Pavlovich, but I do feel we've probably seen everything or most of his game, whereas I don't think we've seen the totality of Tom Aspinall's game. So yeah, look, heavily aboard the Tom Aspinall train here for me. Like I say, I've backed the money line and I've taken some sub props. Probably leave the KO props alone just because I think the sub prices at bigger prices represent a little bit better value. Happy to get burned there if so be it. But yeah, heavily aboard the Tom Aspinall train here. I think you're the same, Ryan.
Yeah, I've about 4 units on him now. At 1.87, I took the 1.87 on Betfair as well. I thought it would actually shorten. I think there could be a world where Aspinall actually goes off underdog here.
Yeah, the prices. Sorry to interrupt you, but like the prices on this, I've been following them a lot. Like, and I'm not sure people have been able to get a handle on this one or how to cap it properly.
I agree.
They have flip flopped a bit. Like Aspinall has flirted with being like 1.7, back out to about 1.92 now. I actually seen him as big as like over evens, I think, or just evens when the fight was originally announced. Like, I don't think people have got a proper handle on how to price this one.
It's funny looking at the UK-based sportsbooks as well. He's touching 1.72 and a lot 1.67 in one or two places as well. So I'd say they probably have a lot of Aspinall money.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, Rob, final prediction for this one?
I'll say Aspinall, but I'm not as convinced as
you don't have to say Aspinall just because the two of us did.
Yeah, no, I do like Aspinall. I think I've said to you, like, I don't know, it was like his second fight in the UFC. I was like, this guy's gonna be a heavyweight champion. Obviously things change with the knee injury and stuff like that, but I am a big fan of Pavlovich too, so that's kind of why. And I do think, you know, like you said, Aspinall's definitely the more well-rounded fighter, at least from what we've seen so far. But sometimes that doesn't matter in MMA because they're wearing 4-ounce gloves and they're just, you know,
I think we probably see this one again down the line as well, to be honest. I'd be surprised if we don't see 2 or 3 of these fights between these two, just because they probably are at the minute, outside of like Jones or Stipe or something, like they're probably the 2 best heavyweights there.
And they're on the young side for heavyweights. So like, these days, heavyweights aren't hitting their peak until mid-30s. Like.
Yeah, exactly. So a clean house a full house for Tom Aspinall here. There's one other fight on the main card that we're going to talk about quickly, and then we'll get like any other business from the lads on the main card. Jessica Andrade versus Mackenzie Dern. Battle of the divorcees here, lads. Jessica Andrade touching around 7-4, and Mackenzie Dern around 1-2. Like, Mackenzie Dern is just a fucking nightmare to price, right? Like, her shit either just works or it doesn't. Like, she's an absolute nightmare to price. So like at 1.5 I couldn't have her. It's a pass for me. Like, unless you're gonna give me some mad price on the sub props, which you're probably not gonna get because like our win price is just so heavily correlated to that, isn't it? Yeah, Mackenzie Dern's a nightmare for me. I don't know.
I don't have much thoughts on this now either. I tend to stay away from digging too deep into the women's fights, especially in boxing, just because the pool is so shallow and there's so many variables. Like, fighters can look different from one fight to the next. Like I would say that I think this looks like it's set up for Dern to win. Like, Andrade is clearly on the slide. Like, it does seem like good matchmaking for Dern to they've always wanted to push her, and now this is a good moment for her to beat Andrade. She'll be after coming off wins against Angela Hill and Andrade, and they can try catapult her in for a title shot. I'd have no interest in betting this, but I did look today, and Dern decision was about 5.5. Now that looks big enough to me.
Yeah,
like
it's a good show.
if you look at the methods, you can rule a few out. Like Dern's not knocking Andrade out. Andrade isn't subbing Dern.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's realistically 3 or 4 methods of victory there.
Yeah, you only it's a 20% clip, like, so.
Yeah.
Does she sub or like whatever percentage of time? Yeah, it probably is a good bit of value. It's a good shout. Like Andrade just coming off 3 losses in a row, 2 subs. Like it's kind of set up for a Rob, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. That's exactly what I was going to say. I think this is like the UFC pretty much saying, here's a win for you. Like, as convinced as you sounded for the last fight, this is how convinced I am that this is a win for... It could bite me, because Andrade, at least, I mean, she has a lot of experience. She's fought, the far better fighters in her past. But if you look at those few fights, there's like huge, enormous red flags in them. Particularly, like, I rewatched the Blanchfield fight recently, and the way she kept that sub up was unbelievable. Like, it was just unbelievable. Easy takedown. It was a little trip on the inside, and then she posted on both hands with her neck exposed, and Blanchfield was just like, oh, thank you. Like, if you do that against Mackenzie Dern, you don't even have to do that, because it probably would have been over before. But if you do something like that against Mackenzie Dern, it's done. And then similarly in the her last fight against Tatiana Suarez, who is admittedly a much better wrestler than Dern, again, it gives away a really, really easy sub. It was just far too easy, and you just can't do that against these kind of fighters, these grapplers. So I think the UFC are looking at this and saying, Darren, here's a win for you, a fairly easy one. If, as you said, Sean, if she can, do the shit that she's supposed to do, which sometimes she's had a problem with, especially with takedowns. Her takedowns aren't great.
The process is terrible.
Yeah,
but she is training with Cejudo now, so maybe that's shore things up a little bit. But yeah, I was quite impressed as well. Her last fight,
when she trains with Jason Prillo, like we interviewed Jason Prillo before, and like he's a boxing coach, and it's not great either, man, is it?
Yeah. Although it's much better than it used to be, which is not probably saying a lot, but it is much better. Like, her last fight was pretty good. She was very aggressive. At least
you've really convinced me now about the 1-2 on Mackenzie Dern.
Like, one thing I will say is, what does a Dern takedown look like in this fight? Like, especially the first round.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, her
she's not
takedowns
in open space. Like.
That's the thing. They're very much jiu-jitsu style takedowns up against the defense, which Andrade is actually quite good at defending. She's strong. I rewatched the Suarez fight, and even Suarez had a problem taking her down in the open spaces, and it was the kind of second attempt. So it was like the actual finishing sequence was first attempt on a single leg. It was actually well defended, but then she wrapped her leg up with her own leg and done a little kind of trip on the outside. So
she does the judo stuff is probably a little bit of a better way for her to get there if she can do it, like the judo throws
time
and
it
stuff,
right.
But like wrestling is stinking, man. Like, it's not good. Like I remember talking with her before ages ago with you, Rob, and it's like, if she had any sort of process, she would be amazing, like, because she's so good on the ground, but she doesn't really.
She did overwhelm Angela Hill the last time out, and there wasn't even takedowns there. It was but like, I feel like Angela Hill's cardio was better than Andrade, so I could see this going to like one of the situations where she kind of just wears down Andrade, because she's quite muscular and she's just very physical. Andrade used a lot of energy for every kind of action, so I think I'd go for the sub. I think it's like, I had it there a minute ago. I think it was like 7. Yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind that.
I quite like that decision shout now. Standard women's MMA going to decision, like, I quite like that. It's like 20% clip, like a Mackenzie Dern sub there at 6-4, an implied probability of like 40%. Probably does sub or like 40% of the time, but like 20% of the time going to decision, I don't mind that at all. Because if it goes to decision, it's probably because there's a good chunk of that time where Mackenzie Dern is gonna have been like trying to grapple or trying to proactively grapple. Like, you might get something from the judges. I don't know. I kind of like that 4-1.
I don't think Dern is totally out of her depth of this day standing either. I think her striking has improved a bit, and I mean, Andrade is clearly on the slide.
Yeah.
I would struggle to see it standing for 3 rounds, like, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a large portion of the fight standing.
Yeah. Okay. Lovely. Mackenzie down for me. Rob.
Same.
Yeah, Darren as well.
Yeah. Full house. Lovely. I have one other fight I want to touch on this card, and then I'll get some. I'll give you to talk about anything else you might be interested in this one. It's on the main card as well, actually. Matt the Steamroller Favola against Benoit Saint Denis. I kind of like Favola here at a big price. Like, I do think Denis is very good. I don't have any issues with him really. I just think you can get a big price on Matt Favola KO. I think it's like 3 or 4 to 1, maybe 7 to 2 or something like that. I think it was 7 to 2 now that I'm looking at it. Like Denis is hittable, leaves his neck out there, doesn't really bring his hands up. 7 to 2 looks more than fine about me. Like Matt Favola is coming off 3 round 1 KOs in a row. That looks absolutely fine. Like I think this fight's just going to be a stand-up firefight. So 7 to 2 about a KO looks fine to me. Probably take the round 1 props as well if you want. Yeah, that one for me. Long live Ray Longo.
Yeah, I don't mind like KO on either side of that. I don't know what the price would be, but either side, because Favola, his chin isn't great either, and as you said, both guys kind of just chin up.
I actually stumbled across the Saint Denis Zaleski fight on Twitter the other day. I was watching back the highlights of it. Jeez, he took some kick in there. Like he showed serious heart and serious chin. Like,
yeah.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't be able to pick a winner here. I think it should be Saint Denis' fight to win. But as you said, like there's especially early, there's a lot of danger there from the Favola side.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to get through a fire to win it, like Denis.
Yeah.
The New York man in New York with Ray Longo in his corner, he's going to tell him to put a fucking hole in his chest or something. So like, I think this is going to be a really fun fight. Like, it won't be a big stake for me. It'll probably like a 1-unit KO play on Favola just for a bit of interest. But I think this could be a bit of a banger, to be honest. Potentially fight of the night or something like that. So that's it for me on the main card, really. I don't know if you guys are particularly interested in any of the other fights on the card.
Nothing.
I have one of the fights on the prelim card is pretty fun. Mm-hmm. It's the Mateusz Rebecki and Roosevelt Roberts fight. Nice. I think Roberts is coming in very late notice, but I've watched a few of Rebecki's fights, and I know he's a fairly big prospect. Now he's like 30 something, and he has like nearly 20 fights. But like, you know, prospect in terms of like he's new to the UFC or relatively new to the UFC. Looks like the absolute real deal. Looks a great fighter. Definitely someone to watch. Like some of these guys coming from Poland, you know, like Gamrot, and this guy look really good. Roosevelt Roberts, when he signed with the UFC, I was actually very, very impressed. I thought his ceiling was much higher than it seems to be. Very inconsistent. I see this as like a Rebecki. I'm sure Rebecki's an enormous favorite based on kind of the chatter that I see. But I think it's a really fun one, and just keep an eye on Rebecki because he looks like a bit of a prospect. Probably someone you'll see on main cards on pay-per-views coming up soon.
If you're interested, you can get Roosevelt Roberts at 5 to 1 just to win the fight.
Okay, yeah, I had a feeling. Yeah,
but Rebecki, one to keep an eye on. It's good to know.
Yeah.
He was on that recent season of Tough as well, wasn't he, Roberts? He was on
that.
Roberts was, yeah.
A bit of a flown, I thought. I don't know if any watched it.
Yeah. I watched the first few episodes. Yeah.
He was like
and again, just so inconsistent. Like his first fight, he won right, and he looked impressive, and then kind of faded away. So, yeah.
Okay, that's it for UFC 295. Tip it on the box, and I'll pick your brains here, Ryan. I know you're going to that Queensbury card next weekend. The main event is Isaac Dogboe, Jake Paul. Am I right in saying?
Nick Paul.
I don't know a lot about Dogboe. But Jake Paul. Not
Jake Paul.
I thought you said Jake Paul, and I was like, geez, I'm Jake missing Paul. Something here.
Am I right in saying Isaac Dogboe was once mooted as an opponent for like Carl Frampton or something like that back in the day?
Yeah, you could be right there. Dogboe.
That's all I know about him, so I'll defer to you now.
Dogboe had serious potential. He kind of broke out. He was fighting in Ghana for years, and then came over the States to fight Jesse Magdaleno, who was a champion at the time, and he kind of just broke Magdaleno down and stopped him late. And I think myself especially, I thought, Jesus, the world's at his feet here. This could be a fucking real good fighter. Like, I mean, since then he ended up fighting Emmanuel Navarrete. You probably would have heard of him. quality Mexican operator. And he lost the first fight, and then shouldn't have went for the rematch, but he hopped into the rematch straight away, and he got battered from pillar to post in that one. But since he's come back, he's had a few good wins. I mean, some of them have been a bit controversial. I think he beat Adam Lopez. It was fairly controversial. Joet Gonzalez as well. That was another controversial one. He seems to get the rub of the green off the judges. No, these weren't robberies, but they were close fights. And he's stepping up to fight Nick Ball. Now, Nick Ball has kind of burst onto the scene.
I called him Jake Ball.
Yeah, he's kind of burst onto the scene in the last maybe 18 months to 2 years or so. He's from Liverpool. If you ever see this guy now, he's tiny. He's probably the smallest fella in the weight. I'd say he's like 5'1" maybe. And he's fighting at featherweight. But he's built like a fucking unit.
Fucking 5'4" featherweight.
Yeah, I'd say he's no more than 5'1".
That's insane.
And he's a wrecking ball. Now this fella, when he knocks people out, they stay knocked out. I think the last guy he fought ended up collapsing in the corner and was taken to hospital.
I remember that.
Yeah, he's a real big hitter now. This fella. Now he can be outboxed, I think. But he's a real big hitter, and he fought Isaac Lowe, Tyson Fury's buddy. Fought him last year and pillared him as well. Beat him in the 6th round. It's hard to know where his ceiling is. He's about 1-3, 4-11 to win this fight. That's telling you that he's a quality operator, because Dogboe is no joke at all. I don't have any lean on the fight itself. I think maybe Ball at 1-3 is a bit short. But I really don't want to get involved with Dogboe here. Dogboe's just after going 12 with Robeson Ramirez as well, who's probably the best featherweight on the planet. Cuban amateur, a gold medalist. But yeah, I'm really looking forward now to going to it next week. It's my birthday next week, so me and the missus booked tickets to go over, so I'm dragging her there. I'm looking forward to it.
Love it.
Is Nick Ball training with that big Liverpool trainer? Is it Joe McNally?
Joe McNally. I'm actually not certain he could be, yeah. But he's based out of Liverpool anyway, yeah.
Yeah. I do remember seeing that fight now where a man collapsed in the corner, and he's a bit of a lunatic as well, isn't he? Nick Ball after fights and stuff that.
It probably won't work up in levels, but I mean, what his whole game plan is to back you into the corner and just swing. He's not he'd probably get outboxed for large stages against Dogboe, but Jesus, he carries some power for a featherweight.
Nice. There's another fight you're interested in here. It is, I don't know, I get it up now.
Harry Scarf.
Echo Essiman and Harry Scarf, yeah.
Yeah.
That one.
Good domestic fight. Really, this is a really good card. It's billed as the Magnificent Seven. So there was a card years ago, a Warren card years ago when he was on Sky, and they billed it as the Magnificent Seven as well. So this is kind of like a throwback to that. In essence, it's just really, really solid kind of domestic fights. Obviously, it's topped by Ball Dogboe, which is, the winner of that's going to get a crack at a world title. But yeah, Echo Essiman, Harry Scarf, that's probably going to be the co-main event. Essiman, he's a bit old now. He's 34, 35 maybe. But he's kind of had a great domestic run the last couple of years. He's the British welterweight champion, Commonwealth welterweight champion, and probably has a few European titles or something like that as well. But he fought Chris Congo last time. Chris Congo, who's a decent domestic fighter, and Congo was well ahead in the fight after about 5-6 rounds. He was winning every round. And then Congo tired, which he tends to do, and Essiman came back to win the fight. I think it was maybe a split or majority decision. But that didn't really impress me. I thought Essiman was outboxed far too easily, and Harry Scarf here now, the fella he's fighting, he's a solid domestic level fighter. He's kind of one of these underrated guys. Now he lost to Anthony Fowler a couple of years ago, who was a British Olympian as well. Since then he lost to Troy Williamson, who was another kind of highly touted British prospect. Now that fight, he did not lose that fight. He won that fight and was robbed.
Has he been going into these fights as an opponent, or as a?
Oh yeah, he's really underrated by the market, I think, as well. I mean, I forget the odds against Louis Green, but he easily beat Louis Green, who's a solid domestic fighter in his own right. I had another win last time out. Now he's about 5-2 here. I don't mind that at all. I think this fight's going to go 12. So I would kind of wait. You might get a nice, decent enough price on Scarf by decision here, or even the draw as a runner, as I think I wrote down the sheet. I just wouldn't be touching Essuman at 1-3. His nickname is actually the Engine, because that's probably his best trait. He has cardio for days. So I would just be very surprised if this doesn't go the distance. Now it's going to be really short to go the distance when it opens up.
Yeah.
But like a Scarf,
Can I ask you on the draw? Is that because, like, so you're looking at that? Is that because you don't want to back Essuman and you just think they might do Scarf on the cards or something, and he could win by like 4 rounds, and they just make it like a draw or something like that? Is that why you'd look at that at a big price?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing I try to do if I try to pick out a draw. Now, I'm not very successful in picking out draws, as the odds would suggest. They're hard to come by, but yeah, my thinking behind this fight is it's going to go the distance.
Mm-hmm.
So you obviously you need to go the distance for it to be a draw, unless it's a technical draw. Essuman tends to get outboxed, especially early, and comes on late. So my thinking here is Scarf could build a lead in the first half of the fight, and maybe Essuman might come back in the second half of the fight. So there, if you're locking in Scarf points and the draw, like you've 2 real big runners fighting for you there. Like, I just wouldn't back Essuman at 1-3 here.
Yeah, makes sense. Any other fights on the card you want to call out before we move to Cameron Taylor?
I think we were talking about Kakachi Garner. Unfortunately, that's off. That probably would have been the second best fight on the card.
Yeah, I do like watching Kakachi. I've watched him a couple of times now on some of the Irish cards. He's a good watch.
Yeah, he's a good fighter. I tried to get against him a few times and failed miserably, but I probably learned my ways. But he's a real solid operator at that level. Unfortunately, he's on the other semi-big one would be Denzel Bentley versus Nathan Heaney. Heaney is from Stoke. He's a real big following. And given that following, he's gotten a push, and now he's not very good. Bentley is about 1-8, I think, here. I mean, Bentley will win this no bother. He'll win this handy enough. Yeah. Bentley fought Janabek Alim Kaluli not so long ago, Kazakh world champion, who's a good fighter. He did well to go the distance, got a few rounds off him. That's real solid for him. I mean, you look at Nathan Heaney then, and he's not done much. He can't stop anyone. He's been dropped a few times. Yeah, look, it's a 1-8 shot for a reason. I think Bentley is definitely going to win this fight. I mean, if you want to add it to a few parlays or a few ACCAs, I wouldn't say that's the worst thing in the world. But until the full rake of odds and props come out for this, there's not much more really that you can look into.
Yeah. So final one on this one, you have Scarf by decision, and then maybe when the odds come out on that one, and then maybe a play on the draw as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a shot on the draw too. Now I can only find 2 way lines at the moment, but
yeah, they'll be closer to the time.
The draw should probably be there about 17.0, maybe 19.0 if you're lucky. The Scarf points isn't going to add too much value, but it will definitely take it from 3.5 up to at least 5.5, I'd imagine.
Mm-hmm. Nice. We'll move on to Chantel Cameron, Katie Taylor 2, a rematch of a fight which I was at the first one in the O2 actually, or the 3 Arena in Dublin as it's now called. I like that first fight was very competitive. I think think there's a lot of stuff Katie Taylor can do to turn this rematch around. Like, I wasn't mad on backing her as a 4-6 fav in the first fight. I tweeted as much that I didn't really think she was the side. I did think she would probably get a nice nod from the judges if needed. She didn't actually get that at all. I thought the judging was very fair. Chantel Cameron's done a nice bit of whinging about any of that stuff that didn't happen as well. But yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that Katie Taylor can do in this rematch, Ryan, to actually turn it around. Yeah.
I'm kind of going to echo a lot of what you said there. I think you're hit the nail on the head of my whole argument. As you said, first fight, it was competitive enough. Like I watched
6 rounds to 4.
Yeah, I watched the back there yesterday, and I scored it 6-4 Cameron again. But there was one real swing round in there, which could have been a draw. I mean, there's definitely an argument that Taylor could have got that 6-4 as well. And to just see such a swing is kind of a bit drastic. I think it's very reactionary. The market is very reactionary in this fight. I thought first time around Taylor would I backed Taylor points first time around. I think it was probably 8-11 or something like that. 4-5 even. But like I was expecting the fight to be relatively close, but Taylor to get the rub of the green. I thought it maybe be a 6-4, 7-3 Taylor fight. But I mean, this time coming into it, like as you said, there's a couple of things Taylor can do, I think, that she can change the outcome here. Now, relying on her to do that is another thing, because she does tend to get drawn into a scrap at times. Like I think she can outbox Cameron here. Like the first time around, another one of the reasons I backed Taylor was I didn't think the size difference was as pronounced as many had thought. Now, I don't know if I was right there. I probably wasn't. I probably think the size difference definitely played a part, but I don't think it played a big a part as many seem to think. I think people seem to think this is a foregone conclusion second time around, and I don't think it is at all. I think there's very slight changes Taylor can make to win this fight. Yeah. And even then, you have to account again, there's another chance for her to get the rub of the green on the cards.
Yeah, like the last time I backed Taylor by majority decision at like 12s or something stupid, just because I thought it might be like a 6-4 either way type job, and they'd give like you might get one draw or something like that. So something like that at a big price I thought was grand. Like the one thing that stood out to me in the arena at the time was I felt like Taylor was trying to do a bit of like eye-catching work to nab rounds and with like punches in flurries. That's my memory of it from being there on the night. Like, and I felt like she wasn't active enough to actually win the minutes.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if you feel the same, Sean, especially with MMA and boxing. I'd say it's probably the two sports where it matters or where it happens the most. The market is so reactionary in rematches to the winner first time around.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes they get it way wrong. I think this fight was close first time round. It was 6-4. I think it was a pretty clear 6-4 Cameron, but like it was close. It was very competitive. It's not like it was I don't think you can have a whitewashed 6-4 fight here. So like I don't really see why there's the pronounced reaction to the prices here now. Like what's changed? Like Kay Taylor's a bit older. I
often say it, but if that fight was, if it went 6-4 Taylor, what are the prices that we'd see in the rematch? Like it'd probably be 8-13 Taylor.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So like in a close fight, I think when you're getting that dog price, like you say on Taylor, I think it's a bit of a no-brainer, I bet, to be honest.
I mean, Taylor's not going to stop her. That's for definite.
Yeah. So I don't think Cameron's going to stop her either, in all honesty.
No, totally, yeah. Unless Taylor's fallen off a cliff in the last few months, which I'd be shocked. So yeah, I mean, you're getting a 2-1 poke there. You're getting 33% implied that Taylor will win a decision here. I mean, I'd say that's closer to 40%.
Yeah, I know, I agree. I think as well, like you kind of touched on, like the one danger is that Taylor does get drawn into an old war, and you'd love her to just box now on the outside here and be way more active, work off the jab and stuff in and out and kind of stuff. She does get drawn into it, which is fucking annoying when you're watching her sometimes, because you know she's so much better than the opponent when it comes to technical skills. So
I kind of think she needs to fight with a lead as well. Like if she wins the first 3 or 4 rounds there and she's ahead, like I'd say this is almost over. Like she'll win the fight. Like, it's just when she's behind in a fight, she tends to try to do more and then get drawn into a war. You saw that in the Pursoon fight, first fight. I mean, she got that, but she lost that fight really. In the second fight, she made the adjustments and won the rematch. I thought she won that fairly. A couple of people didn't. Well, I mean, if she can just box the first couple of 3 or 4 rounds, that's all you need to do here, and you'll make Cameron do some stupid shit. Like I really think if Taylor can just fight a disciplined fight for the first 4 or 5 here, she'll win this.
What's the game plan if you're Chantel Cameron coming into the rematch? Same again?
Same again. Has to be same again. Look to get it in close, look to get it in tight, look to back Taylor up. I mean, I if I was training Cameron, I just tell her push her into the ropes, just work, just make her, because Taylor can tire out, like just clinch, just make it a hard dog fight, and that's Cameron's way of prevailing. Like, I mean, if this is a pure technical boxing match, there's only one winner.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm annoyed now I'm not going this time because I feel like it's very doable for Katie Taylor.
I think there's tickets still there, but if you're going, I don't.
There is. I just checked that there. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's delivered the second time around.
Yeah, I know, it would be annoying. I absolutely loved it there first time. Like the reception she got for the walkout was magic. Like she deserved every bit of it. So not going this time around, unfortunately, which might be her good omen. And the reason I didn't back Chantel Cameron the last time was because I didn't want to jinx Katie Taylor. Didn't matter in the end. But
you don't want to be that wanker either, like did you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if any of you follow that fella Icy on Twitter. Like, he put up a great one the other day or a couple of weeks ago about Ireland and New Zealand in the rugby. He was like, you don't want to be that cunt in the pub that has New Zealand backed and Ireland win. Like, it's probably the worst place you want to be in on earth. Like, so if you backed Cameron
even if
there,
New Zealand win.
If you back Cameron there and Taylor won, you'd feel like an absolute twat. Like,
yeah, I was like, I need to find a Taylor angle in here somewhere. So the Taylor majority decision one was where I landed. It wasn't a million miles off either. Like it was not far off being a majority decision type of thing at all. So yeah, I think the tweet you're referencing there, Ryan, was great because the upside there, even if New Zealand
even if you win the bet, like, what's the upside? Yeah.
You're the dickhead in the pub celebrating.
There's a podcast I watch. It's a Leeds podcast. I'm a Leeds fan, and one of the lads on it will always back the other team. Like if Leeds go 1-0 up, he'll stick a fiver on. If they go 2-0 up, he'll stick another fiver on, just to like hedge his bet. But like I don't get it. That's not for me.
No, there's better spots I think than. I didn't want to be like I was going to that Katie Taylor fight because I thought it was going to be a great occasion. I didn't want to be sitting with a score on. Yeah, that's a bad crack. Ryan, I had one other question. I actually had it in my notes. You kind of touched on it earlier. It's something I know from following you on Twitter that you do a bit of is in play on the boxing and stuff. You like some of the angles in there just because I think you feel the market isn't always reacting accordingly to what's playing out in a fight, and it might be like betting on someone's decision in play, or like I've actually done it a couple of times myself where like you get that little period in between a fight finishing and the scorecard's been announced where you can take an opinion on something. Do you want to just explain sort of that one maybe?
Yeah. So boxing in play markets just aren't efficient at all. I think that they tend to overvalue what the commentary is saying as if it's gospel. And you'll often see, like, you'll be watching a fight and you know the commentary is biased towards one side, given promotional ties or, Brit versus an American. The commentary are going to be pro-British. You can see it all the time. It happens every week. It's absolutely mental, the boxing live lines. So I think that's one of the main factors is just commentary bias. Second thing you need to take into account is probably promotional bias. There's often times I've seen a fella 3-4 rounds down, 5 rounds down, and I'll still back him because I know he's going to get the rub of the green on the cards. So if you can kind of get a couple of those aspects, if you can kind of get them down, there's real good angles to be made live betting boxing.
Nice. I like it. I have done it a couple of times myself, like I say, post fight where you can get the scorecards. You see, if you ever do just wander onto the Betfair exchange after a fight, you do sometimes see some wild prices on someone to win.
There was a famous one there a couple of years ago. Lewis Ritson was fighting Miguel Vasquez, and he lost. I'd say he lost every round of the fight, and he lost at least 10 rounds, I'd say. And I think he was about 8.0, 9.0 on Betfair after the bell. And I just kept topping up, and I was like it makes all the sense in the world for Ritson to get the decision, and he did. I mean, he robbed him, but I suppose I just say, people complain about robberies, and I've given up at this stage, and I just say, just take advantage of it. If you know what's going to happen, take advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think England has really dirtied its clout now in the last couple of years with some bad judging. Like that's why it kind of annoyed me a little bit. It probably shouldn't annoy me, but like when Chantal Cameron was talking about maybe not getting a rub at the green, or I didn't think they were going to give me the decision, and still shiting on about it after the fight when she got like the fairest judging we've seen this site like in the UK and Ireland for years.
Yeah.
I think the UK has really dirtied its clout now the last couple of years with some bad decisions.
Yeah. Like the thing with the UK is they always used to say, "Oh, look at Germany and look at these places." I mean, UK is probably one of the worst in the world at hometown decisions. I think we were touching on it last time. There's generally places where you get fair judging. You get it out in Japan. You get it out in America a lot of the time. Depending on promotional outfits there, if it's Golden Boy or something like that, you mightn't. Like Ireland, like we don't have many cards, but the cards that we've had up in the north tend to be fairly biased towards the home fighters. The one we saw last time in the O2 was fairly neutral. Now it was fairly really good judging on the face of things. But yeah, like it's really bad in England. Yeah, I mean the promotional bias there is just incredible. Like,
yeah. Last thing on this card, I know you wanted to mention Gary Cully and Paddy Donovan.
Yeah, Gary Cully, he had a chance, I'd say, to be the next big thing on the first Taylor card, and he got wiped out by Jose Felix. It was a brutal KO.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, he's coming back. I mean, I just feel bad for Cully now because I thought that was a proper coming out party for him. That I thought he would have made a lot of money if he'd steamrolled Felix that night because he kind of has the look, he kind of has the vibe, he can talk. But yeah, look, it wasn't to be. Since then, he switched trainer. He's gone to Joe McNally, which is a great move from Pete Taylor. I think that's a real plus for him. And he's come back in here fighting Reese Mould. And Mould's kind of like a run-of-the-mill British domestic kind of fighter. He's no power at all, which is what you need to beat Cully. So Cully's just going to outbox him really here. And he probably will knock him out. Now, Mould's only defeat was to Lee Wood, which there's no shame in at all. Given what he's gone on to do. But I mean, he's just not been convincing in the slightest. He struggled with domestic opposition. So I mean, this should be a bit of a layup for Cully, I think. Now he's on the skinny side as well. But that's where I'm going to come into it with Paddy Donovan. He's fighting Danny Ball. Donovan, I was kind of a bit low on him early on his career. I know a lot of people really rate him. He's from Limerick, I think. He's fighting under Andy Lee. Andy Lee's his trainer. Yeah. But yeah, I've been impressed his last couple of fights. Fought a guy called Tom Hill. He looked good there. Tom Hill is a solid operator. His last fight against Sam O'Maison as well. O'Maison, he's not great. But he beat him like you should beat him if you're a decent level operator. Now, I wouldn't be as high on Donovan as most, but I think this is another similar to Cully. I think this is a fair bit of a layup in front of the Irish crowd. And if you combine the two of them together, you get about 1.57. Now, it might be a bit skinnier now. I saw it was 1.54 out there today. But I mean, yeah, this should be as simple as it gets. But I'm looking forward to seeing, especially Cully. I really rated him. I thought he might be our best pro boxer that we've produced in a good couple of years. I thought if anyone out of the active Irish fighters at the moment could win a world title, it'd be him. And look, he still might. I mean, if you look at the guy, he's like 6'4" and he's a lightweight. But obviously, then I mean,
move up, does he?
Yeah, I'd move up if I was him because I mean the main thing in that Felix fight you were at it, Sean, was like he just couldn't recover once he was hurt because he's got no base underneath him. I mean, his legs are so skinny. Like I think he should move up. I mean, I don't mind him taking this one. I think this is a relatively low risk. Now, a lot of people would have said that against Jose Felix because I think it might have been the biggest upset of the year so far in terms of odds. That is, but this should really be a layup comeback fight.
Nice, happy days. Hopefully, we get a clean sweep of Irish fighters on the night. Deadly. That's pretty much everything we wanted to cover, I think. Any final thoughts, lads? No.
All good.
Lovely.
Yeah.
In the words of Bill O'Hurley, then we leave it there. So thanks very much for coming on, lads.
Cheers, Sean.
Cheers, Sean.